So, our Torah portion today is called Emor. When I first heard this name, for some reason, I associated it with the word Emor, love, love, amor, more. Then, when I read this portion, I became, let's just say, a little uneasy, such a vast number of various laws, and all the rest. And somehow, it doesn't really connect, let's say, with love. But then over the years, I came to the understanding that yes, indeed, it is about love, about the love of the Most High for us, for each of you. And undoubtedly, the main central pillar of today's portion is the dedication to the Jewish holidays, the holidays of the Jewish year. And the Torah lists them one by one: Pessach, Schawuot, Rosch HaSchana, Jom Kippur, Sukkot, and immediately, joyful memories flash before my eyes of how we celebrate these holidays in our congregation. The Torah calls them Moedim, special appointed times of meeting with God. And Pessach is, of course, a solemn Seder with its 4 cups. Schawuot is a table full of delicacies that lies ahead of us, and also the holiday of the giving of the Torah. Rosh HaShana is the majestic sound of the shofar and fragrant apples with honey. And, of course, Sukkot is our unforgettable congregation retreat for the holiday, building a sukkah and visiting it. But right in the middle of this list, in the portion, between the spring and autumn holidays, the Torah is suddenly interrupted and tells us the following. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 22, when you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field, and do not gather the gleanings of your harvest. Leave them for the poor and for the foreigner. But why exactly here? After all, this is the commandment about the unharvested edge of the field or the fallen ears of grain. It was already given in the previous portion, Kedoshim, in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 19. Why repeat it right in the middle of a conversation about such beautiful, joyful things? About the holidays? And the Talmud answers, the repetition here is not accidental. The one who leaves the edge of his field for the poor, the Torah and our sages tell us, is equated with the one who built the temple and offered a sacrifice. And this is an astonishing statement. But let us think deeply about what is actually being said here. This is not about tossing a coin into a beggar's hat. It is about leaving behind on the field the harvest grown by your own labor, under the summer sun, with blisters and sweat, and walking away without looking back, leaving it for a stranger from whom you will never hear gratitude again, and whom, most likely, you will never even see again, to whom you legally owe nothing, because this is your land, your labor, and your harvest. But in Exodus, chapter 23, verse 9, the Most High tells us, do not oppress a foreigner, for you yourselves were foreigners in the land of Egypt. And the Torah appeals not to abstract generosity, but to the memory of the Jewish people's own helplessness when they were in slavery. You know what it is like to be a stranger and to be dependent? Well, let us return to the structure of the text. Why is the commandment about the poor placed exactly between the holidays? The holidays are a time, as we have already said, of joy, of uplifting, of such spiritual experience. These are days when a person feels close to God, rising above the ordinary. It is exactly in this context that the Torah says that a true meeting with God happens not only in the temple and not only on a holiday, it happens on the field. In that moment, when you stop your hand, when you leave things behind. A little later, several centuries later, the Apostle Paul will say, when he writes his famous second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 9, verse 6, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. But the Torah goes a little bit deeper here than what Schaul told us. It does not speak of generosity as a strategy, give in order to receive more. It speaks of sacrifice as such, of what is given without calculation, without guarantees, without gratitude. Well, the Torah does not idealize us. It does not idealize mankind. The Most High knows how difficult it is for us to part with what we have earned. It is normal to consider that this is yours. It is normal not to want to give it away, especially when no one will see and no one will appreciate it. The Torah does not idealize mankind. But the Most High knows all of this, and that is exactly why this commandment is placed in the middle of the holidays. That is exactly why this commandment is repeated right when the topic is about joyous occasions. Exactly, because the one who fulfills it is equated to the builder of the temple. Therefore, God looks not at the volume of the donation. He looks at what it costs us. And in the first book of Samuel, chapter 16, there is a wonderful passage that we all know very well and quote very often. For the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance. But the Lord looks at the heart. That is, when a sacrifice is given easily, it is kindness, but when it is given through the resistance of one's own disposition, of one's own nature, that is already a piece of holiness. And this is exactly what the Emor portion tells us right in its very middle, where you least expect it, that a true holiday before God is not only the day when you come to Him, it is the day when you stop and generously leave something behind without expecting gratitude. And may the Lord bless you with this.